So good morning, everyone. My name's Rob Flynn. I'm the Chief Transformation Director for RSA, and I'm here to welcome you to this second webinar we've got for our broker partners focused on the integration of RSA and FarmWeb. So we've got a packed agenda, and I'm joined by a number of colleagues who will each introduce themselves to you in turn. First up, we're going to talk about the early renewal process. So Laura Fox will join us for that. Then we're going to go on to some of the details around some of the changes we've got in plan for some of the credit solutions that we provide. Then we're going to talk about day-to-day trading and some of the changes that you can expect in terms of customer and broker experience. And I'll be joined by Rob Smart and Lee Dainty to support that. Okay. Following that, we'll have time for live Q&A. So hopefully you can all see the Q&A facility within the window. Feel free to type in anything you want to ask us there at any point. We'll pick that up towards the end once the guys have finished running through the agenda. As well as Laura, Rob and Lee, we're also joined by David Enoch, who I will introduce because he's not due to speak until the Q&A. So David is our Distribution Director, and Steve Scott, who of course is our Regions Director. So they'll be around all the way through the broadcast and available for the Q&A as well. Okay, so without further ado, I'm now going to hand over to Laura.
Thanks, Rob. Good morning, everyone. As Rob said, I'm here this morning to offer a bit of an update and answer any questions that you might have on the progress we're making across the integration programme. But more specifically today, I'm going to focus on, I suppose, two main themes. First, the policy migration process and the underpinning renewal and new business timelines. And second, the treatment for direct debits. But before I do, I think it would be amiss not to make mention of us passing through the first key milestone, which was operational transfer date on the 1st of May. And that date marked the official coming together of the NIG, FarmWeb and RSA people under our Intact band. We successfully welcomed no less than 750, I think, new colleagues into the business. And I say successfully quite deliberately because it absolutely was a real success. We had 750 new colleagues provided with the right technology, the right systems access. They were all paid on time. And already we're making really great progress with our onboarding and training, which we recognise as being critical, not just to the smooth delivery of the integration timeline, but also to our ability to continue to support all of our brokers and partners through this period of change. It was also quite deliberate that we separated the migration of people and premises from customers and policyholders. And now that we have successfully embedded all of our people operationally, we can now confidently turn our collective attentions to the migration of our customers. Now, you will start to see on screen the timeline for renewals and new business transferring to RSA. And as we briefly touched on in the Q&A during the last webinar, it is our plan to phase the migration of customers over a number of what we term pattern drops. And that really just refers to groups or sets of policies by product type and by channel, depending on their IT or tech requirements. Now, for 99% of policies, the schedule that you're looking at on screen now will not change. But we have taken the decision to move some cases a little bit earlier than planned. And we have already contacted you if you do have customers impacted by this signposting the treatment. Our rationale for going earlier on some renewals is simply to de-risk this element of the programme and give us the chance to test every element of the technology and the process solution end to end before we start to push volume through in July. So going first are a set of non-actuarial policies linked to premier property owners and a small subset of commercial combined policies. And indeed, we are live on this set now. So we went live on the 28th of May and started inviting our first PPO renewals through, the earliest of which will have an effective date from the 24th of June. Here, all you should really notice are some additional wordings on policy documentation that will confirm that policies with an effective date of the 24th of June and onwards will now be underwritten by RSA. To give some context as to volume, we're looking at around 312 PPO policies, plus an associated 128 terrorism policies within this first set. So substantial enough for us to satisfy ourselves as to the testing requirements. The commercial combined volume is far smaller for this group, and for both sets of products, we will start quoting new business on RSA paper from the 15th of July. Next up is our non-motor delegated schemes book. So from the 1st of July, we have 25 schemes that will transfer to and be underwritten by RSA. These will then be debited on RSA systems from August onwards. We have 2 that sit a little bit behind that time frame, and they will transfer across to us on the 1st of September. Now, our partnerships team should have spoken with you all now and agreed where your schemes sit on this timeline, and we should have walked you through any required changes to documentation or indeed processes. But of course, if anything around this remains unclear, then please reach out. The vast majority of you that on this call will start to be impacted from the 15th of July, which is when around 80% of the business transitions. Now, the next pattern includes our e-trade packages and mini fleet products. It includes FarmWeb, motor and combined, and our regional commercial combined, motor fleet, motor trade and PPO business. It also includes commercial van business that is not written by a CDL. So as you can see, from the 15th of July, we will start to invite those renewals and quote for new business to be underwritten by RSA, and that business will have an effective date of the 2nd of September onwards. We do trust and hope that there will be minimal change for you here as this business continues to be or moves to be traded via Acturis or other existing software houses. And for the avoidance of doubt, the software houses that we're including here are Acturis, Applied, BGL, OGI, PowerPlace Micro, SSP and TGSL. And the reason why we've been able to move more of this legacy manually traded business onto Acturis is because we've been able to make changes to increase location limits in the platform so that more of our PPO and commercial combined and all of our motor trade business will now sit on this platform. And that's going to offer us significant efficiency gains as we transition. Just to close the loop on delegated, on the 2nd of September, both bordereau and non-bordereau motor schemes will transfer. These will also now be traded via Acturis and underwritten by RSA from this point. But we will be handling the migration onto the Acturis platform in-house, and we'll be doing that ahead of renewal starting in September. So the process to you, we hope, will be seamless. That then takes us through to the 30th of September when we will complete on the non-CDL commercial van book. And we anticipate that this business will start to have an effective date towards the end of October. So that in a nutshell is the phased migration timeline. I appreciate that there is some detail there, but please note that all of this is housed on the FAQ pages on our website. And we will also have written to you already as part of the assignation of TOBAs to reinforce the process. But as I said before, if anything is unclear or you have any questions at all on how we expect to migrate your policies, please speak with your underwriter, account manager, or any other usual contact, and they will be happy to guide you through it. It's also important today that we do touch on some of what's changing in relation to the handling of direct debits. So for a number of reasons, and to really support those NIG and FarmWeb customers who wish to pay monthly via an in-house facility, we'll be moving to offer a solution via Premium Credit Limit, which is the provider that RSA use today. In terms of process change, the main impact will be in relation to regulatory change regarding credit lending. Now, this is not linked to integration or mandated by RSA as such, but rather in response to this market-wide regulatory change. We will be sending out a full communication very shortly on this, but we wanted to take the opportunity today to just position high level what you should expect. And in essence, that will be a request for you to communicate with your customers, and where they do wish to pay via monthly direct debit, advise them that they will be required to sign a new credit agreement with PCL. We will handle on your behalf the transfer of customer bank details and other information that we hold on your systems. We will, however, likely require some additional data in order to complete the credit agreement. Now, typically, this is simple KYC information, and we expect that this is a process that you're either already following with other insurers, or it's typically information that you will have to hand. The data requirements will vary depending on the customer's legal entity. but we will guide you through the fact find. Again, we will only ask you to fact find information that we don't already hold on our systems. And once we have all of the necessary information filed, then unless anything changes, we won't be asking you to contact customers for that information again. And we will very shortly, as I said, be issuing an information pack that will guide you through what's changing and will talk to your affected policyholders. Within that communication, we will also outline where there may be some changes to the APR that is charged to customers. Now, we're comfortable that the APR rates that we will be able to offer will be comparable with those offered by other insurers today, but we will ensure that any changes to terms are discussed with you by your BDM or your underwriting contact at the earliest convenience. We've worked well with PCL to deliver what we trust is a competitive and fit-for-purpose solution for customers. You will receive full comms on this shortly, but again, if you have any concerns, please reach out to us and we will happily answer any questions that you may have. So with that, I'll now hand over to Rob, who is going to focus on what we're doing to minimise disruption to our claim service as we process through the migration. Rob.
Thanks, Laura. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Rob Smart, Head of Claims for NIG and FarmWeb, and myself and my teams transferred over to RSA on operational transfer day that Laura referenced, the 1st of May. And we moved into new serviced offices outside of the DLG offices. And I just want to acknowledge at this point that some of you or some of your teams may have experienced some quite noisy backgrounds in those serviced offices when on the phone. We are acutely aware of that, and we are taking steps to resolve that. So please bear with us. But in the meantime, do appreciate your patience whilst we work through some of that. So although we transferred to RSA on the 1st of May, we were immediately seconded back to Direct Line Group. So all about 160 claims people that transferred, seconded back to DLG to carry on handling the existing NIG work and FarmWeb work on the DLG systems. So for all intents and purposes, it's business as usual for all NIG claims that are currently written on NIG policies. And that will continue going forwards as we continue handling the work that's not yet migrated. So, and everything around the claims process, the front door in terms of notification remains absolutely the same as it did prior to the 1st of May. And that includes relationship management as well. Lee and my team have been spending a lot of time on sort of the planning activity around what this looks like moving forward, and Lee will pick up on that in a minute. But the whole process around this is to minimize any disruption to the brokers, whether it's an NIG policy and an NIG claim as we move into the migration period that Laura's just talked through. Now, the only thing that is going to slightly change with the first phases of that migration that Laura alluded to, which you can see on the screen there, that's 24th of June and the 1st of July. It is relatively small in terms of volume compared to the Acturis migrations later on. And we don't expect that many claims to come through between sort of that June, July period and September. So what we're going to do there is for any claims on migrated policies that are then underwritten by RSA in those two phases, that any claims that come in on those policies will be handled by existing RSA handlers, but they will have full access to existing NIG handlers who may have the appropriate scheme or product knowledge. So again, the front door process notification will be exactly the same, and we would notify you once those claims have received as to who would be handling those claims going forward. So we are effectively business as usual for the existing NIG and FarmWeb work. And so you shouldn't notice any change in relation to how we're processing the claims, how your teams are notifying those claims, and the people that you're dealing with in those claims. Obviously, that will change as we start to migrate policies to be underwritten by RSA. And I'm now going to hand over to Lee, who's going to pick up and talk to you a little bit around that as well. Thanks, Lee.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Rob. Good morning, everybody. Just a quick introduction for those of you who don't know me. So I'm Lee Dainty. I'm the Commercial Claims Director at RSA. As Rob has said, we've been working together, our teams, very collaboratively, very successfully over the last sort of 9-10 months now. Figuring out the best way to handle the claims migration. And it's I think it's testament to how the teams have worked together that we've actually been able to come up with an approach that is very, very simple and requires very little change from a broker perspective in terms of claims experience. So there's quite a bit of detail on here. I'll try and go through it as quickly as I can. I think probably the place for me just to start is just to make it really clear that for any policies that have not yet migrated to RSA paper, everything will stay exactly the same for you in terms of how you notify the claim, which claims handlers are handling them, which offices they're handled from, what systems they're handled from, and how you access all of those claims services. Although we are having to use and migrate onto RSA claim systems, and that's fairly straightforward, the current systems used by the NIG and FarmWeb teams are owned and operated by Direct Line Group, so we'll need to move off those. That will see us move on to RSA technology, so that will be moving from Guidewire version 5 within NIG and FarmWeb and onto version 10 for RSA, which is also cloud enabled, and that will also give you access for any of those new claims to a whole new suite of digital tools. So whereas today you can notify claims on 360 Global to NIG and FarmWeb, you'll be able to track claims progress through the new RSA portal. So what will happen, as Rob said, we're preserving the front door, as we call it. So that is across telephony channels, online, email, post. The way in which, no matter whether the policy is migrated or not, the way in which you can notify the claim to RSA, NIG, FarmWeb will be exactly the same as it is today. You use the same phone number, you use the same web address to go to online, use the same email addresses, and the same postal addresses. What we've done with each of those is given you the opportunity to select which policy it is, whether it's migrated or not. And again, we've kept that really simple. You'll know whether it's a migrated policy because the policy format will change. It will change from all numbers to a combination of letters and numbers. And this will all be very clearly explained on the website. For example, if you went online to notify a claim, it will ask you, does the policy number contain only letters or does it contain letters and numbers? And then you can click on the relevant box and that will direct you automatically to the right portal. And again, on the telephony IVR, it will ask you if it's numbers only or combination of letters and numbers. And again, based on the option you select, that will direct you to the right claims team. In addition to that, as Rob has already said, our claims teams are already working together. And so if there is any misdirection through that front door, we will be able to manage that between our existing teams. Why is this all important? It gives continuity of how you contact us, how you notify us of any new claims, and consistent with what you get today at your first notification of loss with the NIG and FarmWeb teams, you'll be given the claims handler specific details, phone numbers, emails, that sort of stuff. So you know who the claims handler is. That will also happen on any claims that are handled on RSA systems on migrated policies. So you'll know who to contact. And of course, if you have any trouble at all, go back in through the front door and we will be able to direct you. So as I said, we're trying to maintain existing processes as far as possible, recognizing we do need to change from one claims platform to another, but maintaining the front door and maintaining those existing routes of contact, but with the ability to navigate it very simply is how we've designed that experience. Clear differentiation between policies, so you can tell which is a migrated policy and which is not by the combination of letters and numbers or just letters. We're preserving all the existing channels for you to access the NIG and FarmWeb claims teams. And we are going to extend the self-service capability online to the RSA digital portals as we implement those across the different lines of business. So just to recap, on telephony, existing NIG phone numbers will present new IVR option to route all calls. And then at FNOL, you'll be given the contact details for the claims handler for that particular claim, and that will enable you to follow up with any other questions you've got specifically about that claim to the right handler. Online, there will be a new landing page, and that will help you identify whether it's a migrated claim policy or not. All email addresses are being preserved and will remain in place. Same for postal addresses. And then between the two sets of claims teams at this point, we've put a redirection process in place so that if there are any misdirections, we can pick that up. And then in terms of relationship management, we also just wanted to clarify today that the existing claims relationship managers that you have that are aligned to you and your businesses and your people, those will stay exactly the same as they are for the time being. Clearly, over time, we will integrate and need to integrate the two sets of relationship teams. But certainly for probably the rest of this year, we'll be keeping those relatively stable and simple, so you've got consistent, regular contacts that you always had. Rob, I think it's back to you for the Q&A.
It is indeed. Thank you, Lee. So there's a lot of content in there, and I'm grateful for both Lee, Laura, and Rob for sharing that with our broker partners. I'll come to a question that's been asked a couple of times first, actually, which is, will we get a copy of the content? So all the attendees will get a link to a recording of this webinar after the call. We'll also share a link in our next broker newsletter as well, which will be out next week. So be a couple of opportunities to get hold of the content. I do appreciate there was quite a lot of important and detailed information in there. So we'll make sure we do that. Okay, so there's a number of questions come in already. As a reminder, as well as the presenters, we've also got Steve and David on the call as well. So feel free to use that attendee question function and pop something in there, and we'll do our best to pick them all off. So first up, I'm going to come to you, Steve Scott, if I may. Question: is the NIG book being re-underwritten against RSA appetite for acceptance/eligibility?
So I can't see myself on screen, but hopefully you can hear me. Rob, give me a thumbs up or something and tell
Steve,
me
I
yes.
can both hear and see you.
Oh, how delightful. Right. Okay. So to the question then, well, actually, we've been working with Intact and some of the Intact pricing analysts since November of last year. But our core product, well, we're not re-underwriting any of those as such. Clearly, our ambition is to renew the bulk of the NIG. At some of the pricing. But that would be natural anyway, given our performance.
Thank you, Steve. Right, next up. Do you know which e-trade platform, brackets extranet, you plan to use going forward? How will you handle the setting up of user access on the go forward system, given not every broker has access to both? I'll pick that one up. So give you a break, Steve, and we'll come to somebody else as well. So, and we haven't yet decided kind of our approach in terms of extranet. So I think right now we've got the hub and we've got RSA online. I fully expect at some point we'll harmonize that and pick a single go forward extranet. As Ken said at the last webinar, at some point we'll be all under the same brand as well. And we've just had a kind of question about products. I think in the early stages of looking at these, though, it's quite apparent to us that there's no one of those extranets that has kind of a 10 out of 10 and the other has 0 out of 10. They've both got some fantastic features and fantastic journeys that have been developed by the teams over the months and years. So the key will be making sure we don't lose any of that richness when we do move to the point of effectively merging. And I think importantly, in terms of access, a number of brokers do have access to both, but any broker that currently can access one will certainly be able to access the go forward extranet that we end up concluding on. Our plan is not to limit that in any way, shape or form. Hopefully that answered the question. I'm going to come now to Laura. So Laura, question for you. I understand you won't be competing on each other's held business, but what about new business cases? Will there be, where should we send these cases?
Okay, thanks, Rob. So for now, just do what you would always have done. So if you'd previously have gone to RSA on a particular risk, whether that's based on product, wording, expertise, or whatever, then continue to do just that. If you would previously have sent an inquiry to both RSA and NIG, then you can do that. And in a non-E-Trade environment, we will triage in-house and determine locally who and how we best respond. Now, any clunkiness in that process will improve materially from mid-July onwards. And that's when we will have achieved the necessary levels of system segregation to allow our new NIG sales team to move into a space where they can access all of the RSA CSI, so commercially sensitive information that they need in order to make these decisions. And that therefore means, one, that we should be in a position to start to accommodate joint broker meetings, which will be helpful in starting to bring us together onto that single account plan for all of our partners. And two, it should mean that we'll be in a position to appoint a single account manager or indeed partnerships manager across the entirety of your book with us. So it's a point that keeps coming up. We will be, I think, talking more about this very, very shortly once we've finalised what the go-forward sales operations model looks like. But here and now, no change to what you have previously done.
Great, thanks, Laura. I'm going to stick with you, actually. I think this one bridges a little bit from the access point that I talked about regards extranets. So, Laura, how do NIG brokers without an RSA agency access RSA teams and products? Good question.
Okay, so we have a set of brokers with an NIG TOBA, but without a corresponding RSA agency. And all of those brokers will be offered one. So we are hoping to be in a position to have written out to all affected partners by the end of the first week in July. If I was a bit more confident today, I would say it will be on the 1st of July, but give us that week to make sure that we've communicated with you all. And our plan is to have onboarded everyone by September this year. So that's the point at which you will have access to the full suite of products and propositions that we collectively have on offer. So there's nothing quite automatic about it. We do have some paperwork to complete, but there will be comms coming, and hopefully by September this year, that access is opened up.
Brilliant. Thank you, Laura. So I'll pick up the next one. We spoke before about one product, one price. When will we be hearing more about this? Will it be either the RSA or NIG product or a new product representing a blend of both? So I think this has some similarities with the specific extranet question as well, and so does the answer. So we are working through that at the moment. Once again, in terms of product, there's no kind of one is universally better than the other. I think there's a number of features and benefits that both NIG and the RSA equivalent product would consider standout. And we're working through the process as to kind of how we blend those in an expedient but also valuable way for our brokers and our end customers. I think we're rightly proud of the product that we underwrite and the claim service that we provide. And I think that kind of assessment and decision-making process, recognizing that we take the best of both and try and bring it together to be market leading, is something that we'll see, whether it's extranet, whether it's product, whether it's claim service, and so on. It's an exciting process to have so many of the kind of jigsaw pieces that we think are required to win in this industry within our palette. And the onus is on us to be constantly testing that with you, our broker partners, so that we select the right elements to really deliver that compelling market leading proposition. I think as we go through the coming months, and certainly through these webinars, but also through kind of more regular communications from our sales team and our marketing and so on, we'll start to talk in more specifics around that. But at present, we're still very much we've got the people over, we're starting to migrate the policies, and now we're evaluating kind of elements of our our kind of setup and our operating model. Next up, Steve, we're going to come to you again. I think your connection's a little bit unstable last time, but hopefully we've connected that now. So let's try this one. So on the last webinar, you advised we would move to a single account manager by broker. When will we know who that will be?
Cool. Right. So let me take one little step back. So we said we'd announce the names of the successful regional managers within the month of May, and we did that. And we gave ourselves an extra 2 weeks after that to announce the names of the regional development managers. And it, again, tick. So one regional manager, one regional development manager per region, and they're in place now. So the RM and the DM have been working together for the last week or so to right size their account management team. And we should, in fact, we will be in a position to announce names before the 14th of July. And why the 14th of July? Well, because from the 14th of July, we can efficiently realign. And the reason for that is because of systems access. So until that date, middle of July, there are some appropriate firewalls in place to do with competition law. But from that date, we should be able to release the account management team into the broker accounts.
Great, thank you, Steve. And yeah, that was much more stable.
Back to you, Rob. Yeah.
Thank you, much more stable, both visual and audio.
Cool.
So appreciate that. Laura, I'm going to come back to you, I'm afraid. No rest. So Laura, our office transacts most of our FarmWeb business via the Actress platform. Am I correct in saying all renewals with effect 15th of July will now be invited by RSA and underwritten by RSA with effect from 2nd of September? Who will underwrite the policies between 15 July and 2nd September?
Okay, so it's a good question because it helps just give a point of clarity. So it's the same people, the same underwriters, the same expertise that we will be using to underwrite the business regardless of when it drops within that time frame. So up until the 15th of July, it will be the same individuals using the same systems, the same tooling, but it will be underwritten by UKI. The only point of difference is the point in which it transitions to be underwritten by RSA, but it's the same team and the same expertise that we're relying on post-migration. So hopefully that clears that one up, Rob.
Thank you. I've got while I've got you on migration, just a kind of a link question as well. When our business migrates in July, will our policy numbers change? And how will our account team manage any queries? Accounts team rather manage any queries.
Thank you. So policy numbers will not change. They will port across. However, we will add a prefix to just help us identify and ring fence NIG existing and new business. If you do need to speak with us and regarding accounts queries, but it's true of any particular journey in, then before you pick up the phone, just take note of the policy inception date and link it to the renewal timeline that we've presented. So our telephony systems or IVR will then help you route depending on whether or not the policy incepted before or after key dates. They will route you to the correct team accordingly. So no change to policy numbers. There will be some subtleties on the documentation, but that's just to help us with reporting and MI.
Thank you, Laura. Very clear. David, I'm going to come to you for a couple of questions, actually. We'll do one after the other, if that's okay. So first up, David, if RSA and NIG are due to tender for a new client, facility, scheme, etc., at what point will RSA /NIG as an integrated body be able to submit a single response?
Thanks, Rob. That's a good one. With regard to things like tenders and facilities, we're starting to do that at this stage. Can you hear me now?
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, sorry, Rob. Yeah, we're starting to bring it all together at this stage. So we should be having a coordinated approach on that. With regard to the individual quotes on individual risks, as Laura, I think, mentioned at the start, we'll continue to send them in to us at this stage on the basis that you have been in the past, to each NIG and each RSA relationship. But with regard to things like specific tenders and facilities, please do, we will come back to you specifically with our own proposition from a single sort of approach.
Thank you, David. Second one for you while I've got you.
Yep.
Going forward, will we see one BDM or still have one for each company? So an RSA one and an NIG one?
Yeah, as Steve answered previously, obviously we're going to one face to market. So we will be going down to one BDM. That work's going on at this moment in time. It will be just beyond mid-July when we'll start communicating that out. And obviously there'll be a handover period to ensure that we remain consistent. But it is important to us that we have one face to market moving forward, and that will be, as Steve alluded to, that will be sorted out between sort of mid-July and the end of July.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. Right, I wouldn't say a flurry, but there's a handful of claims questions up next. So I think timing-wise, it probably slotted in at the time that Rob and Lee were speaking. So Lee, I'll come to you on the first one, if I may. So Lee, will brokers receive an updated claims contact list?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. We will continue to publish the claims contact details in exactly the same way we do today. So on NIG.com, on the website, on the claims pages, it provides you lists of claims handlers. So that will be updated as business as usual. So as any claims handlers leave or join the organisation, and as they migrate from DLG systems and onto RSA systems, their email addresses will update to RSA email addresses, those sort of things, Rob. So they'll be available in exactly the same way they were prior to the deal as the claims migration happens.
Thank you, Lee. Just a very similar question, but also includes a bit about existing office locations for claims and so on. So can you pick that one up as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, as we said earlier, trying to keep this as simple as possible and with as little disruption and change. What will happen is, as claims are notified on RSA systems, we've identified what we call a ramp plan. Effectively, that requires us to move existing NIG claim staff from DLG systems onto RSA systems in line with the amount of claims that we're expecting to be notified. So essentially what that means is that the staffing numbers will be staying the same, and wherever you are currently lined to, and if that's a scheme, I expect that will stay the same, certainly in the short term. In the longer term, obviously, we may need to have a look at where things are lined up, but certainly for the immediate future, wherever your scheme is currently pointed to, we'll endeavour to keep it in that location, and the claims offices locations will be staying the same, certainly as well, Rob.
Great, thank you, Lee. While I've got you, I could throw this one over to Rob Smart as well, but you're on the screen, so here we go. One final claims one in this batch. So are claims to be handled by a specific handler rather than everyone dealing with the claim that they are presented with? As we're starting to experience this on the phones, that the handler needs to pass through. This doesn't give a good experience, and causes kind of rework, which is true on both sides. So just a little bit about claims ownership, Lee, I think there.
Yeah, so at the point of registration, every claim is given a claims owner, a specific claims owner. So we don't operate a pool ownership approach. So it will have a named claims handler, and named claims handler details will be provided. When it comes to the telephones, you'll have direct access on direct dials to that handler. But if that handler is already on another call, it will divert into a hunt group, right? And that's common practice across the industry. So it is possible that somebody else will answer the call. What we always say to our staff is, if you can answer the question for the caller at that point, that will be great. If it's something a bit more detailed that requires the case handler at that point, we'll let you know that the case handler will call you back.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lee. Okay, we'll give you a break now. I think I'm coming to David. Back to David next. So David, a question on brand. So will legacy brands be maintained? So that's all I have. So I think maybe interpret that.
Cover that one. Yeah, obviously the brand piece is important. We have 3 very distinct brands at the moment. So obviously we have RSA, we have FarmWeb, and we have NIG, all very strong brands in the markets that they play. We will be maintaining those in the short to medium term because that's important that brokers can align with those brands in that short term. But obviously maintaining 3 brands moving forward is hard work and is probably not the best approach from a corporate perspective. So we are in a process of reviewing our brand strategy moving forward, and there's a lot of work that's going on that at this moment in time. And I would think during 2025 we will be coming out with a single brand approach, but that doesn't necessarily mean we won't have any sub brands in the future moving forward. So yes, at the moment it's still very much RSA, NIG, and FarmWeb. But in the medium term, we will be reviewing that and coming out with a single brand with potentially some sub-brands around that. But that's work that's going on at this moment in time.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. Thank you. So Steve, back to you now. Some questions on underwriting appetite and products specifically. So I think, these are all regionally traded products. So I think it's right to come to you. So first up, quite a headline one, is underwriting appetite going to change?
So a little bit like my question earlier, although I accept that my connection wasn't very stable. So NIG's underwriting appetite remains in place. We have we've committed via one commercial program to bring one product, one price, one approach to the market. That will be, I think, to your point earlier, Rob, that will be middle of next year, certainly by September time, when we begin to renew the NIG policies in the RSA book. But currently, no plans regarding change of appetite around the core products.
And follow-up question, pretty much the same question actually, but specifically to farm. I think I know the answer, but while we've got you on that topic.
I think I should probably cover FarmWeb because you're right. There's a few questions come in the attendee chat. So a few things. Firstly, FarmWeb remains as a standalone division with a standalone brand. Standalone FarmWeb products operated on the Actua system, which again is bespoke to the FarmWeb business. All of the underwriting will continue to be done by FarmWeb underwriters, but as of September, it will debit into the RSA background environment. And just to one more question, so what will you see from September? Your policies will look and will feel exactly the same, but the underwriting entity will change. So instead of it saying UKI Limited, it will say underwritten by RSA. So I think I've covered a bit of ground there for FarmWeb, but hopefully it gives that confidence that there's not a great deal changing in the FarmWeb business.
Brilliant, Steve. I think might be a few follow-up questions I'll just scan through, but in the short term, I'm going to go to Laura again, actually. Whilst it's a FarmWeb question, it's definitely about migration. So Laura, most of our FarmWeb policies are transacted via the FarmWeb website. Try saying that 10 times quickly. Will this be changing post-migration?
No, absolutely no change. So the screens and the journeys in that you're used to seeing from a FarmWeb perspective on the front end, there will be absolutely no change to that. And it's really similar across the entirety of the NIG hub. So we'll not be making any changes. All that we're doing is plugging things in a little bit differently on the back end. So changes to documentation, yes, and we will be signposting anything else. I think there's further down a question that talks to things like statements, MI reporting and all of that. And again, we will walk you through those changes as and when they land, but we're keeping any change minimal to avoid any sort of disruption over the migration period. But from a FarmWeb perspective, you will see absolutely nothing different to what you see and hopefully enjoy today.
Actually, this one, if I pick this question out next, it bridges quite nicely off that. So in any migration, it is accepted that some teething problems arise. Will we be able to have escalation contacts for both underwriting and claims, please? So Laura, do you want to say a couple of words on that?
Yeah, do you know, it's a great question, and it's a great request, Julie. So it's entirely relevant for us to make sure that that's issued as part of our plan. I will make sure that that's due to go out quite quickly, because obviously we've already started that earlier renewals process. Visibility, I know, is a really key theme for both David and for Alan Houston. So we will make sure that our sales teams are armed with all of this content and information and are really able to help support and walk you through these changes. But we have multiple routes in for escalation across underwriting claims, and we'll make sure that we document them for each regional trading site and for the central function, so that you've got a clear list of contacts locally that you can rely on for that support.
Thank you, Laura. I agree. Important question. This next one, I think you've answered a version of it already, Steve, but because it's product specific, I want to give you just the opportunity to reiterate, and actually you might hand to Laura for the second part of this. So for products such as motor trade, will you be keeping the NIG wording or looking to update and revise ?
Okay, so the first bit is each. So RSA don't transact motor trade. However, they're very interested, very keen on NIG's approach in that market. It's a class of business that has traditionally delivered for NIG, delivered profit for NIG, and there's no plans to change that at this point. So it's not like we have two wordings to bring together. Having said that, we're always looking at our product wordings. We're always looking at the outcomes for the customer, and we will update and refresh wordings as we go through any calendar year.
Thank you, Steve. Second part of that, and I promise I won't say the word ? just because it's written there. I think this could be you again, Laura, but you might want to pass it to Lee or Rob Smart as well. So the second part of that question was, when moving to RSA paper, will the detailed claims MI report be updated and improved, or is that something for the future?
Yeah, I'm going to phone a friend. I think so. We've got lots to talk through in terms of broker statements and reporting on the MI side, but given it is a claims specific question, it's probably one for Lee or indeed Rob to cover off.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Happy to cover it off. So the claims MI reporting that exists today and comes through Rob, your relationship management team, and under Andrew Perry, that will stay the same. We do need to take then MI and data from claims handler on RSA systems and get it into those reports, and the teams are currently figuring out how to do that. But the intent very much is that the reports will continue to be produced and supplied in the same way they are today. And back to the escalation point, if there's any problems with that, again, go back to your claims account manager in Andrew's team, and they will escalate anything to us. But yeah, we do still need to understand how we'll be able to take the RSA claim system data and push it into that report. And we'll do that over the next couple of months.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lee. I did hear your dulcet tones come in just as Laura was speaking on the anticipation it might be coming your way. So thank you for stepping into that. Okay, so we've just got a couple more questions left. So just a reminder, we've still got 10 minutes to go. Just a reminder, please feel free to use the attendee question facility if there is anything burning that you'd like us to pick up on live here. But in the meantime, let me go to I think this is a great question, actually. David, I'm going to come to you first on this one. Understand the rationale behind not quoting against existing held business. But what is the position where RSA or NIG hold a risk and we know they will lose it at renewal? Can we then approach the other side, so to speak, in an attempt for RSA/NIG to try and retain the risk that way? And that's a fantastic question. David, do you want to kick off with that one? Or...
Yeah, and I think the most important thing here is the customer. You know, what's important for the customer. I think we need to make sure that we are helping the customer in those sort of situations. Obviously, you're going to get very different scenarios, and we need to treat each one with its own merit. But the key thing here is that we look after the customer. So in those situations, I would suggest that we talk to the sales lead or the regional manager lead, or once their BDM, and we look at that on its individual own merits. We want to make sure the key thing here is that we protect our customers moving forward and give them the right solution. And if that means that we have to change things slightly and have a slightly different approach in certain instances, we should do that. So I would really actively encourage people to talk to their local relationships, and we'll find a way to try and make sure we accommodate customers as much as we possibly can.
Thank you, David. Yeah, you're fantastic. Because I think that's a strong message that we do want to retain this business within the group, and we do want to find ways to write. So by all means, please do reach out with any concerns, and we'll do our best to accommodate.
Yeah, and we have had some scenarios like that already.
Yeah, brilliant, good stuff, and thank you for asking that question. It wasn't planted, I promise, but it might well have been. Okay, couple more to go. I think this is a Laura one because it's a bit migration-y, but equally it's FarmWeb, which is one of your products, Steve. So on your toes, it might get passed across. So Laura, start with you. Not sure if I missed the answer to this, but does the NIG TOBA automatically give us access to FarmWeb?
No, so it's not automatic. We have a slightly more protected and ring-fenced distribution when it comes to the FarmWeb proposition and offering. It's probably one that in the fullness of time, David and I might come out and have conversation around, and certainly the distribution strategy and how we harmonise across all of our agencies and all of our product suites going forward is something that is a priority for us as we move into one commercial. But it's not automatic. What I would say is if you feel that there is a requirement for you to have access to that element of the proposition, speak with your account manager, speak with your aligned underwriting team, and we'll do that assessment to make sure that if relevant, that we can give you that correct support. What is important for us, certainly for FarmWeb, but across the entirety of the book as we progress through this migration, is that we are absolutely maintaining our service levels for existing customers and indeed existing partners. And that is today the reason why we're not any broader on our FarmWeb distribution than as is. So hopefully that clears that one up.
It's a great answer, Laura. Thank you. It is protected distribution at this point. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Take that as a pass. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you both. So I'm going to come back to you, Lee, for a claims question here. So it's an important one because it's one about ownership. Yeah. So Lee, will internal claims still have a dedicated handler aligned to specific brokers as current processes, or will they be going over to a variety of handlers?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Rob. So a couple of really important points. So number one, the existing alignment within the NIG and FarmWeb teams will stay exactly the same, because clearly over the next few months, the vast majority of claims will continue to be notified onto their systems, onto those systems, and handled by the existing handlers. As claims migrate over to RSA, we operate a very, very similar structure. And Rob and our teams, we've found that there's a remarkable similarity between the way we handle claims. you would expect that we're a claims organisation. There's only so many ways to handle claims. And we'll operate very similarly. So what you might see, and I'll be really open about this, is as we migrate people from old DLG systems onto RSA systems, there may be, because clearly we're not going to get all the claims moving exactly as we want, we may need to supplement the existing NIG handling with somebody in RSA, or that might lead to a change of handler for a short period as the migration of claims handlers happens. So doing as much as we can to maintain everything as it is today. Clearly, as we migrate, I think this was acknowledged in an earlier question, there will be some bumps in the road. But if there are any bumps in the road, and if there's anything that you're worried about or concerned about, please don't sit on it. Give your claims account manager a call in Andrew Perry's team, and they'll flag it with us as we go.
Brilliant, thank you, Lee. So we're nearing the hour. So one more question here. I think I'll go to you again, Laura, on this one. Hi, if NIG commission differs to RSA on a held policy, what will your approach be?
Okay, so we've already done quite a bit of reconciliation, and we know that we have some differences across some product lines in terms of our approach to policy level commission. But for now, and until we tell you otherwise, policy level commission, remuneration agreements, deals, fee-for-service arrangements will all run to their contractual term, and there will be no changes to existing commission. So regardless of what I talked through earlier on in terms of the renewal and new business timeline, if you're binding an NIG product, if you're using an NIG agency and trading off of the back of your NIG TOBA, then you will still enjoy the commission levels that you expect today. That said, we are looking as part of our One Commercial integration at how we harmonise all of our broker remuneration tooling going forward. And that's a lot of that has been asked for. So lots of our brokers are asking for us to move to single deal, to single arrangements as soon as we can. But hopefully you'll expect and appreciate that we've got a huge amount of modelling to do to make sure that what we do deliver back is competitive. It drives the commercial growth aspirations that we have as a business, and also seeks to validate all of the work that we're doing on an ongoing basis in terms of product governance and fair value assessment. So more to come on that, but we will give you lots of notice if indeed we come to a position where we're looking to change any policy level commission or deal terms, and that is likely to be well into the fourth quarter this year.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for the comprehensive answer. Okay, so we're going to squeeze one more question in before we close out. I'm going to come to you, Steve Scott. Good one to finish on, I think, actually. So there are many synergies across your businesses, but also a divergence of products, capacity, and trade appetites. How will you ensure that you deliver these capabilities to wider opportunities? Over to you, Steve.
That's probably a good one to finish on. So when we talk as an executive group, one thing is in our minds that bringing the two businesses together, of course, 2 and 2, must equal more than 4 here. Yeah. So there's opportunities to take advantage both from the NIG capabilities and skill sets and experience, but also the ability to do exactly the same from the RSA product width, the capacity, the experience, the professionalism, etc. So adding those two things together, 2 and 2 must equal more than 4. And we need to work out how we distribute it, how we make sure our people are capable of trading it, and how we take advantage of it. So it's a great question, Neil, and thank you for it.
Brilliant, Steve. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who asked a question. Thank you to my panelists who contributed an answer to those questions as well. And lastly, thank you to all of our broker partners, to all of you who've joined us for this webinar. Apologies if we didn't get to your questions, but we'll follow up after the call. As I said, we'll publish these slides and this recording as a link to everyone who attended. It will be in our next broker newsletter next week. And keep an eye out for our dedicated FAQ pages where we'll feature not just this content, but also the questions that we didn't get to. You can find those on both the RSA and the NIG websites. Okay, so thank you very much. Look out for future invites. I hope you found this useful. Very soon we'll be starting to transfer policies over, and I think next time we have one of these, which will be the third in this series, you will have seen a number of policies already successfully migrated. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye. Have a good rest of your day.